Hi, I'm Bella Spiros.
And I'm Jack Ramey. We're seniors here at Cathedral Prep.
This month, our school community is preparing for something very special. Giving Day is coming up on Thursday, November 20th.
Giving Day is important to us because it directly supports tuition assistance, enhances academic programming, and creates opportunities for students like us.
We've experienced firsthand the generosity from alumni, parents, and friends that make prep such an incredible place. From outstanding teachers to traditions that make this community feel like family.
On November 20th, we invite you to help make Giving Day a success. Every gift, no matter the size, strengthens the prep experience that we cherish and keeps strong for future generations.
Thank you for believing in us.
And in the mission of Cathedral Prep.
Hi everyone, my name is Jimmy Smith. I am a proud member of the Cathedral Prep class of 2011, and I have the pleasure of working here at Prep in our Advancement and Alumni Relations office. Welcome to episode number 90 of the Rambler podcast, where we are passionate about sharing what makes Cathedral Prep the standard of excellence. I will be your host for today's episode, and we're excited to have Paul Lorei join us as a guest. Paul graduated from Cathedral Prep in 1977, and he is a nationally certified professional photographer with more than 35 years of experience capturing people at their very best. As the owner of Lorei Portraits here in Erie, he has built a studio known for its timeless style, which blends indoor elegance with outdoor freedom while creating lasting memories for families, seniors, and professionals. Paul's career began in advertising as an account executive and copywriter before he transitioned into photography, first as a school photographer and then as a small business owner. Over the years, he has photographed hundreds of thousands of people and built a reputation for creative lighting, composition, and storytelling through portraits. A proud graduate of Prep, Paul went on to earn his bachelor's in marketing from the University of Dayton and his master's in English from Gannon University. He has served in leadership roles with the Sarah Club and St. Thomas More House of Prayer, and he continues to be deeply rooted in faith, family, and community. Beyond his professional work, Paul is a writer, traveler, cyclist, and cross-country skier. Most importantly, he is a devoted husband, father of 5, and grandfather of 7, soon to be 8, and his prep connection runs deep, not only through his own education, but also through his siblings, children, and extended family who proudly attended Cathedral Prep and Villa Maria Academy. So we're excited to sit down here with Paul, talk about his journey, his creative eye, his reflections on Prep and Villa, and what it means to build a life around connection, storytelling, and legacy.
Wow, that sounds pretty impressive.
Well, we welcome you. Thanks for joining us.
It's a delight to be here, Jimmy. Really fun.
How fun. And, I graduated with Max,
Yes.
your son.
Yes.
And
he's a character. He is an absolute character.
Both figuratively and really.
In every possible way. Yeah.
But it is fun. It's those prep connections, as I was
Yeah.
just mentioning in the bio, that do make that fabric of Prep and Villa so special. Our little connection there, and through the years of all the portraits I've done with you professionally and with family.
Yeah. It's been marvelous. It's been absolutely marvelous. It's been great.
Yeah. And I'm sure with all the photography you do, I'm sure there's many times people bring up, oh, do you know so-and-so? And it just leads to many conversations.
One thing after another, We're only like 6 levels of difference between people, but I think in Erie it's only 2. So, yeah.
And the Prep Villa microscope, it's even less.
It's incredible. It's incredible. Yeah. You went to school with my brother, didn't you? Yeah.
That's so funny. Yeah. And it's glad to have you here in at the old headmaster's house where my office is.
It's great.
We were talking about this is where Monsignor Dollinger.
Yeah, Monsignor Dollinger was here, and I just saw Father J. Bush a few minutes ago, and he was here, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. This was his digs as well, and a lot of history between the schools and this house, of course, too. And it's exciting, and it's fun to be able to jump into a little bit of our conversation today.
Yeah.
You were here. You graduated in 1977, and when you think back to your time at Prep.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you start to think of? I see the smile you're getting there.
I immediately think of blazers and ties and staring at the tile floor, walking around with 4 or 5 books, bad haircuts, pep rallies, football and basketball games, the cathedral, the 17-minute lunch, racing to class, the structure of everything. I look back on it and I think in many ways it was just like one giant Monty Python skit. You know, it was so much structure, but then so much hijinks. We had so much fun. There was always a joke going on in one way, shape, form, or another.
That's so funny. And the one that stuck out to me the most is, well, not the most, but when I hear 17-minute lunches.
Yeah.
The kids nowadays, they have no idea how good they have it.
Oh my gosh. Sometimes you'd have to race from the, from the first floor up to the third floor to get your books, and back down to underneath the cathedral, get into the, get your lunch, and eat, and then get back to your locker, and then get back to class. And it was crazy. It was just crazy.
And this isn't, if there is current students listening, this isn't the same cafeteria they're in today.
Yeah.
This is all the way on the other side of the school.
Yeah, you might have a quarter of a mile run before you got to lunch, and and an eighth of a mile on the way back.
I think by the time me and Max were there, it was maybe 26, 27-minute lunches.
Yeah.
They have 45 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
43 or 45 today. So they get to have a little bit more relaxed, period to socialize.
We got to ride herd on those kids, man. That's getting a little too easy. I always thought that the headmasters didn't want to give us any time to get in trouble, and I always thought that was the reason for the short lunch. Like, if these boys have another 10 minutes, that means 10 minutes of mischief. We're going to just take it off the schedule.
I think you're probably right with that assumption there. I'm sure that was probably part of the formula.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. And you come from a large family. I don't think I realized that until I was reading your bio.
Yeah, I have 9 siblings. So I have 7 brothers, 2 sisters. And it's kind of fascinating. My oldest brother just passed away, sadly, just a couple months ago. But it's kind of amazing. I look at, I always think you take for granted your education and where you came from, but when you really stop and look at it, I look at my siblings. My oldest brother was a very successful journalist, but I also have a priest in the family, an architect, a landscape designer, a visual Bible translator, a physician, an orthopedic physician. I'm probably missing somebody.
Sure, you got 9 to try to remember.
My brother Mark was a really good business manager too. So it's like and my sisters are no slouches in any way. So it was really a marvelous. I look back and I just go, man, we really were so blessed to come to a school like this. I think of my mother and my aunt both went to Villa, but my grandfather on my side only went to 2 weeks of school his whole life. And he ran a cider mill and a lumber mill. And then my father never graduated from high school because he enlisted in World War II. And he was just a few months shy. But so then it's such a gift, then the foundation. And I look at where my siblings have gone and what it's enabled them to do, and I'm like, wow, it's really remarkable. It really gave them wings like they never would have had.
Yeah. It is, to your point, sometimes when you're just in motion and you're going through the grid of school and then on to college or wherever the world takes you, sometimes you don't always sit and take a look around and count those things, and then you one day sit back and you think to yourself, wow, talk about that foundation we had laid. It's such a great thing.
It's absolutely amazing.
Now where are you in the pecking order?
So I'm fourth. So the first 8 kids are boys, so I'm smack dab in the middle of the boys. And so I have 3 older siblings, 4 younger siblings. And I really got completely, I was in the middle of it. I think I ended up having a really good friend my senior year of prep, Tim Doherty, and he and I got to be best friends. We went to grade school together. We never even talked to each other, I don't think, in grade school. But when we were here at prep, we got to be friends. And at one point, I found out that he had, the exact same family combo as me, and it was like, oh well, this is interesting. What are the chances of that?
No wonder we get along so well.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
You guys needed each other just to help through the hurt of your families.
Man. Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, I always say I never wore hand-me-downs. I wore third-me-downs and fourth-me-downs. I remember my mom used to be able to spread a can of tuna fish across about 6 sandwiches. And I remember one time I'm sitting down at prep at lunch, and Danny Borges is sitting across from me, and my mom would pack my lunch, and she said, "Lorei, what are you eating? Is that a bread sandwich?" And I'm like, "No." And I open up the 2 slices of bread, and there's a little tiny island about the size of a $50 piece of tuna in the middle with this huge margin of bread around it, and I was so embarrassed. But that was it. That was what it was like to grow up a Lorei. So yeah.
Well, and it's funny, at the time as a kid, you didn't think anything different of that.
No.
That was just how life was.
No, and because we knew a lot of other families just like us. So,
yeah. Oh my goodness, that's hilarious. And so you have all these siblings and family members that have gone to Prep and Villa.
Yeah.
What's it like having that generational connection to the schools? I mean, I mentioned Max having been here with me. I mean, what's that mean to you and your family to have those ties together?
Yeah. So we have 5 kids, and all of our kids went to Prep and Villa. 3 boys, 2 girls. And so there's sort of this common language and common understanding and common framework, either when we get together or, and just this sense of humor and the sense of order. I mean, it all kind of ties together. Our kids, unlike, say, the Fessler family where everybody stayed more local, the Loreis are just like going to the ends, almost to the ends of the earth. I mean, we're just scattered a bit, but there's still that joy and that connection and the sense of humor. I always feel like that's the one underestimated thing about prep, is how much it develops in addition to everything else, it develops one's sense of humor.
I would have to agree with you on that, because I think through the years of doing the podcast now, the amount of stories that I'm just sitting here cracking up at listening to these stories. You're absolutely right. There are a ton of those moments where they're not always school-sanctioned activities, but they nonetheless were good moments that we've had in our years.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And kind of one last question, reflecting on here from your time at Prep. Were there any teachers or coaches, and you mentioned a classmate already, but anybody who really had that lasting impact on you?
Yeah. So, I never had him for class, but at the pep rallies, when Dave Wenrick would get up and give the speech before any type of McDowell contest, whether it's basketball or football, I mean, that was just comic. And it was genius, and I can still, I think I can still repeat his speech like word for word, 50 years later. Some people say Cathedral Prep ain't what it used to be. Some people say, anyways, and he kind of builds up, and it was just like absolute rabid, stark, raving young man, crazy. Can't wait to get to the game. Can't wait to be cheering in the stands. And it was just like more fun than anybody should have.
Yeah.
So, but that was good. I always admired too. I was like Bill Flaherty. I had him for class, but I always watched him on the sidelines, and he had this composure and he had a smartness about him. And I think that's why he won the state championship. I thought he was so good. And I was thinking of Father Dan Krasinski, probably very understated. You probably don't hear a lot about him, but he had such a gentle and good soul, and he was really a good man, good priest. I think of one of my classmates and good friends, Tim Doherty. I always think that guy had perhaps a better, he was comedically better than Bill Murray. I mean, he was just absolute comic genius. I never laughed so hard in all my life. I'm like, this guy was just an absolute natural comedian. And many people know his son, Tim Doherty, who was I understand, equally hilarious. But anyways, I just think of that. But if I can tell you one story, Jimmy. So it's my senior year, and we're really kind of full of ourselves senior year. We're taking Mrs. Bixby's typing class, and we're really screwing around in the class. And we're taking the typewriter covers, and we're throwing them around the room, and somebody was throwing pennies against the ceiling, and it was raining pennies down. And I stepped out of the classroom the one time, and with my friend Ray Polanski, And there was 2 doors to the typing room. And I said, hey, Ray, I said, I'm going to knock on the door, and then I'm going to open the door, and he was going to throw an orange into the classroom. So I go up to knock on the door, and I put my fist through the glass. And I couldn't believe what I did, and it was a smash. I'm like, and it just stopped everything. Everything stops in the hallway, everything stops in the classroom, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And I pulled my hand out, and I'm like, oh no. And I'm walking down the hallway to my next class, and I see my thumb starts bleeding, and I'm like, oh no. So I go into the class, and I think I had Mr. Drabina, and I said something to him. We weren't really doing much in class, and I said, hey, could I use the restroom? And I said, I cut my thumb. And he's like, oh yeah, you can go. So anyways, I'm like, oh no, I'm in trouble. So I'm walking down the hallway, and I see Father Swoger, and he says, Lorei, were you involved in this? Like, oh gosh, guilty. I'm like, yeah, Father. And he's like, get down there and see Father Dollinger. I'm like, oh no, this is awful. So I'm, I kind of keep my thumb from bleeding anymore. I go down to Father Dollinger's office, and I show up there, and he's there, and he says, Mr. Lorei, were you involved in this? And I'm like, yeah, Monsignor, I was. He goes, tell me what happened. Now this is I'm not proud of this, but I lied to him, and I said, well, I'm a senior. And I said, there was a sophomore, and he pushed me, and I put my fist through the glass. And he stopped, and he kind of shook his head, and he goes, Mr. Lorei, you're the kind of young man we need here at Prep. To stand up here and come out with this. And he goes, we need more of your kind of young man. I'm like, oh gosh, Father, I just lied to you. So anyways, I didn't have to pay for the broken glass. I didn't get any demerits. I didn't have to do any Saturday detention. I didn't even get a whiplash or, I was off scot-free. So anyways.
You've been holding that in for 50 years.
50 years.
You had to get that off your chest.
Father Dollinger, really, he let me off the hook, man. He probably knew.
He wasn't born yesterday.
No, he wasn't born yesterday, yeah.
What a story, though.
Yeah.
And that's certainly one of the moments that when you think back, you're just like, oh, what a knucklehead I was at that time.
Oh, gosh. This is crazy. It was crazy.
Yeah. And those years are so much fun, too. I mean, stories like that, of course, a little bit on the extreme end of things that can happen on a normal day here at Prep. But we all have those times where we look back and think, oh, what was I thinking?
Yeah, gosh.
But on a positive spin of things, what you've been able to do with your career has been quite impressive. I was reading in the bio as I introduced you, more than 35 years. And recently you had a LinkedIn post that just amazing how you're able to articulate some of the moments in your journey. And I have some questions lined up for you off of that. And But congratulations, 35 years in business.
Yeah, thank you. No, it's been just a wild ride. Just to give you a little bit of a micro story of that. I was in the ad business. I worked for my dad a little bit in the school pictures business. And then I decided I wanted to finish up a master's degree. I was going to write the great American novel. Married, we have 2 kids. Within, before I finished my grad school, we had 4 kids. But I remember one time and I was getting paid a stipend of $5,500 a year as a grad student. And so can you imagine trying to keep a family, even with just 2 kids, afloat, even back then, in 1990. So I come home one day from school, my wife says, we've got a $35 electric bill, and I don't have any money. And I'm like, there's no quarters in the couch. I mean, there's nothing. She goes, no. She goes, we are broke. And so I had $25 left, not enough to pay the bill. So I went down to Palaco's, and I bought a box of chocolates bars, the kind that you sell for $1 a piece, but you pay 50 cents a piece.
Yeah.
And I hawked chocolate bars around Gannon one afternoon so I could make enough money to pay the bill. And I said, there's got to be a better way. So I put together a little portfolio, and I had some exposure to photography, both with my father, but also in the ad business. And I put together a portfolio. I walked down to Gannon. I talked to this woman by the name of Roberta in the PR office. and I show her the portfolio, and it's like a picture of a falcon and my kids on tricycles and some trees or something. Like, it's not impressive in any way. And for some reason, she gave me a job, and I got paid $35 to do some PR work. And then, a couple weeks later, she gave me another job. And then I got some other jobs through at Mercyhurst College at the time. And then I started to do some group photos for class reunions. And then I kind of morphed into weddings. And it was all because it was necessity. Like, I had to produce or my family would not eat. I mean, I had mouths to feed. I had shoes that needed feet, or feet that needed shoes. And I'm like, I got to do something. So, but, long story short, 4 years down the road, I looked around and I'm talking to my wife, Gretchen. I'm like, you know what? We got a full-blown business here. Like, we're making some money. I mean, I'm not getting rich, but I'm like, and I had to get good in a hurry. I had to master my craft, and I had to get good in a hurry. So with absolutely no intention of starting a business, I started a business. I went absolutely backwards into it, and we went from those original PR and class reunions and weddings to our current mix of families, high school seniors, and business headshots. And it's been an amazing run. It's like we raised 5 kids. We put 5 kids through, prep and Villa. We got 5 kids, most through college, kids that went all the way through college.
Yeah.
But it's like an absolutely amazing run. To make a living as an artist, I got to tell you, Jimmy, it's like riding the Ravine Flyer every day of your life and never getting off. Because there are no residuals, there's no regular paycheck, there's nobody that 100% sure is going to come back on a regular basis. And so it is really it's a walk. You're walking the plank with a blindfold on, but it's also one that it's sort of a faith walk. Like, it's like, I have to do it, so I'm going to do it. Yeah. And we did it. Yeah. I'm still shocked. I'm still like, I can't believe this. Like, how did we manage that? At one point we had, multiple kids in high school and college, and we still made it go. So how did that work?
Yeah. Talk about faith.
Yeah.
Yeah, walking that out and just trusting in the Lord to provide and do what needed to be done. And I think there's a great lesson of entrepreneurship in that too. Just that sense of urgency you talked about from the very beginning. And I've kind of had conversations with friends before, and they contemplate maybe wanting to start their own business, and you can tell there's some serious consideration into doing that. Maybe whether they've been working for a number of years or they're coming out of college at the time, they want to start their own business. And but I think that drive that you just talked about, I mean, it was sink or swim, literally, in regards to your point. Shoes needed to be on the feet. Mouths needed to be fed. Yeah. You had no options.
Yeah, and there was no backup plan.
Right,
I got to make this work now.
And what a great, again, going back to that idea, what a great lesson of entrepreneurship of, anybody's listening to this and thought about starting their own business. Yeah. That sense of urgency to the point of it. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you got to be able to ride the Ravine Flyer every day. That is the best analogy, because it's like it is crazy and it is wild, and you have to trust the process, and you have to trust that you have put yourself in the best possible position and given yourself the best possible advantage to succeed. And then you have to be determined to see it out.
And is that your personality type? Is that easy for you? Are you somebody who's very detailed and planned out? Or is it easier for you to be able to ride the wave every day and just kind of see where it takes you?
So that's a great question, Jimmy. There's the difference between like regular people and creatives. I don't want to say regular people. I mean, I just mean most. There are cats and there are dogs. Okay, and creatives are cats. They cannot be herded. They cannot be told what to do. They can't be trained, like a dog. not trying to say anybody's a dog. Don't get me wrong. But it's like,
understand, he's not talking about you.
I'm talking about creatives. I mean, creatives, we're nuts. We're crazy. We're squirrel chasers. And so, it's not the best to be wildly creative is not the best way to establish a business, but it is doable if one knows what the end game is, where I have to get to. It's like, okay, I might not take a linear route, but I got to get across this, and so I'm going to do it. I have to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes total sense. I think passion,
Yeah.
I'm sure I can hear it through your voice, you know, passion fuels what you've been able to do and accomplish. And that creative juice, I feel like if you weren't pursuing your inner creative person, you'd be stuck in a mundane position and you wouldn't be fulfilled.
Yeah, and I've had jobs, like right out of college, I worked for a few different ad agencies, and that's, you know, probably the most creative end of the business, and I was still like very, let's just say frustrated.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's funny. And so you're going through this process of, it was really, it just had to be done, right? It wasn't, you're sitting out, I'm going to start a business, what should I do? Maybe photography. No, that's not how this started.
No, this is a lark. This is a lark because I wanted to write the great American novel. I still want to write the great American novel. I'm still working on the great American novel, but, you know, this is what I had to do.
Yeah. And so you're going through those years, and you mentioned you're talking to your wife, Gretchen, and you kind of got to this point, you're like, we might have a business. Yeah. What kind of indicators pointed that to you? Was it just your schedule being full? Did you feel like you were now developing a really good skill set within the field? What was it that was kind of tipping the scale now to make this a full-time career?
Boy, great question. My clients really liked my eye. They really thought that I had a good eye. My clients liked me, and really when my wedding business took off, it was really the wedding and the class reunion business. Both of those took off almost the same year, and all of a sudden I'm booking out for weddings like, you know, a year in advance. And I'm like, oh, I guess I have what it takes. I guess that, you know, and I was just, I could have booked 3 or 4 of myself at one point when I was shooting weddings. Of like, I could have kept 4 of me busy all the time.
That's why you had 5 kids, right?
Right. Gosh. But I have to say, it's not for the faint-hearted. I mean, I worked, you know, over the summers when I was doing a lot of families over the summer down at the beach. I would be working oftentimes 6 nights a week, and I would still work a regular 40-hour work week, and then I would still do morning shoots on top of that, and I would do Saturday morning. So I'm knocking out in the throes of it. I'm knocking out a 60-hour week, and it's like I'm not turning down any work. I got bills to pay. I got tuition to pay. I gotta make this happen.
Yeah.
But it just made me. You know, it really honed my skills, and it honed my my personal skills, and it honed my business skills, and it honed my organizational skills, and all of the necessity of the whole thing made me better in every category. I'm not saying I'm perfect, or I'm not saying I'm the model, but it's like it works. It worked.
Right. You kind of had, from what it sounds like, you had this drive to do well because of your family.
Yeah.
And then in that regard, you had to manage your time well. You had to shoot well. You had to manage the business well. All these different aspects of what you had to do to be successful.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then on top of that, it's like you really have to, like anybody in business will tell you, you know, there's the skill of running the business or whatever your craft is, but really the people skills in something as personal as photography have to be really high, and you have to have an emotional intelligence, and you have to be able to read a situation just like that. I remember at weddings, I would have to be able to take charge of a group of 150 or 200 people and yell over them and get their attention and tell them exactly what to do. And 10 seconds later, I would fade into the wall and be fly on the wall and be invisible. And I had to be able to do that on the drop of a hat. I had to be able to go inside, outside, and I had to know my equipment and have a backup system. And it's like it was trial by fire, but it was, you know, It was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you get to meet so many wonderful people through
Oh, I
the years.
did.
Yeah.
I did. I just have the best clients in the world. I
Yeah.
really do. I do.
Yeah.
And if you're out there and you're my client or you're not my client, you're still the best person in the world.
Just slightly not as good.
That's right,
Just
right,
kidding.
right,
Just
yeah.
kidding. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's a great testament to you perfecting the craft. Like you
Yeah.
said, maybe you're not, perfect with this, but
Yeah.
you've certainly done the work to learn a thing or two
Yeah.
when you do a shoot and whatnot. And, I'm sure a lot of what it comes to be with photography is there's a lot of connection, and you want to help people be able to have the right expressions and different aspects of the photo that you're trying to capture. How do you bring that out in people, especially maybe the ones who aren't as photogenic?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jimmy. I'll have someone come into my office and say, Paul, I'm just not that photogenic. And or they'll say, and I apologize to all dentists out there. I hate this, more than the dentist. And I'm like, don't you worry. I said, I'm pretty good at charming. I'm good at charming your kids, and I'm pretty good at charming you. So it's like, just trust the process. And I said, I think I can win you over if you just work with me. And I think I'm able to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's there's the skill behind of knowing lighting and posing and composition.
Right.
But then there's the skill, which is in many ways the more difficult skill of knowing how to get the expression, how to get the move, how to get the eyes right.
Yeah.
The eyes are so critical. Can I tell you one story?
Yes,
Jimmy?
please.
All right. So I worked for my dad for 4 years as a school pictures photographer, and that was the hardest thing I ever did in my life. In shooting school pictures, you had to have a different child on the stool every 60 seconds. So you had to get the child on the stool, get them to sit up straight, get them to turn the right way, get them framed in the camera, get it focused, get an expression, get them off the stool, and repeat that, rinse and repeat, and you'd be shooting, I would always be shooting like 250 to 350 kids a day, and it was absolutely brutal, and especially if you get some squirmy kids. And it was very challenging, and my vision of hell is always that I'm behind a school pictures camera, and I've got one squirmy child after another, and when I go out in the hallway, the line snakes on for eternity. Like I'm like never going to leave this camera. But I remember one day I was photographing, and I think they were like either first graders or second graders at a small country school downstate. And this kid gets in front of the camera, and I'm framing him in, and I'm looking at the kid, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this kid is really. He's really a handsome kid. He's beautiful. He's really a good-looking kid. So the kid gets off the stool, and the next kid gets on. It's a girl, and it's like, oh my gosh, this girl she's really pretty, and she's got beautiful eyes, and you've got great face structure, and it's like, and then the next kid gets on, and they're beautiful, and I'm like, how did I miss this? Each one of these kids is really beautiful. Mm. And so that's how we came up with our motto: every face is beautiful. Mm. So I've taken that to heart when I approach someone. It's like, every face is beautiful. Most people have never worked with a real professional photographer before that can actually photograph them in the best light, with their best expression, in their best pose. They've just never done it, and so they think it's impossible. Mm. And so I've taken it on as my personal mission. To show them, I want to show you a version of yourself that you might not think is there, but it's there.
Wow. To me, that seems like the more difficult part of being a professional photographer. To your point, the lighting, where you set the camera, the focus, those seem like more of the technical aspects that certainly you need to learn and master. Yeah. But being able to get the expression in the people the right way. But I think that's why you've been so good at what you've done through the years, is you have that just childlike belief in people that every face is beautiful. Yeah. And if you don't start from that position, how are you going to capture that for someone else?
Yeah.
People can feed off your belief in them that they are.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely true. Absolutely true. And it's funny, Jimmy, I think about that, and I'm like, growing up in a family, surrounded by boys, where it's like a little bit of dog eat dog, and it's a little bit of constant battles. Well, it's constant. It's constant battles. I'll just be perfectly honest. But it's like, if you can thrive in that kind of environment, I mean, that really set I don't feel like that set me up well. And then
Yeah.
coming to prep, and it's like, prep is fun, but it can be challenging. It's a little bit of one-upmanship. But if you can thrive in those environments, then, the regular world is in many ways easier.
Couldn't agree with you more. It's one of the reasons I'm so passionate about prep is
Yeah.
you take kids who put them in this environment. And over 4 years, our mission, developing men and women of vision in spirit, mind, and body. And to me, what that really means in the simplest terms is we develop leaders. You go through prep with the academics, the extracurriculars, and sports, and camaraderie with your classmates. But to your point, and we bring out the best in each other. We want people to be pushed to their limit, to know what it's like to fail and to lose to a classmate in a pop quiz or lose on the field, but then to learn from that, to become better. So next time around, you can know what you did wrong and learn how to be better. And then that's like that continual cycle during your 4 years.
Yeah.
And to your point, when you graduate, you go on into the real world. And I remember going to college and thinking, this is easy stuff that we're doing here.
I thought my freshman year was so easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but to your point, it's like prep didn't coddle us, it challenged us. And I look back and I'm like, it was so good. Because as a young, as a teenage boy, I mean, you are hostage to your passions. And if someone doesn't corral you and ride herd on you, you can end up in a bad place.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We certainly have had those moments during the years as well.
Yeah.
And this is a little bit of a fun question for you. So 35 years in business, hundreds of thousands of faces you've captured.
Yeah.
Is there, besides the meaningful, your first one kind of thing, is there a portrait or an assignment over the years that stuck out with you?
I'll tell you one. I was thinking about that. And this is like 20 years ago. I photographed this beautiful little baby, a newborn baby, and got some really beautiful photos of the girl. The girl's name was Maggie Kofsky. And then when she was about 18 months old, I had photographed her again, and I got some other really beautiful images of her. So I had just delivered the photos of her, 18-month-old portraits, and in something really tragic happened. The little girl drowned. And it was so tragic, and I remember going to the funeral home, and the family was just beside themselves, and it was so sad, and it was so tragic. But they had that beautiful portrait of her, and then the beautiful portraits of her, and I know that I had given the family a real gift, and that they would have the portraits forever. But the follow-up to that story is that the parents were able to have another child several years later. And when their son was about the same age, I created a portrait of the brother and the sister together.
Aww.
And they of course never met each other, and they couldn't know each other, and it was seamless and beautiful. So that's, let's just go. When I do my job well, I become a friend of the family. And that's the highest possible compliment, because I'm trying to serve the families. I'm trying to, I'm all out on every shoot. I give my all, and I'm really, I'm not perfect. But I really try to give something that will live, way beyond me, and it's a treasure. That if their house is on fire, they're going to get their kids out and their pets out, and then what do they go for next? I think in a lot of ways they go for their portraits.
Those things that can last forever with them and be passed on to future generations as well. Those moments, and what a neat story. It was just something you were able to help capture that family. To your point, you're there to serve them, to capture these moments so they can hold on to them, and you can tell how much that meant to you. That going to that service and seeing the picture there that represented their child, it's really special. It's very meaningful.
No,
Yeah.
It's really something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All the fun of being a creative and all the
Yeah.
things you get to do
Yeah.
still keeps you grounded to know that what you're doing actually matters for the family too, and what you get to do. And you know, in the LinkedIn post too.
Yeah.
I mean, through your own journey, you know, you reflected. If you don't mind, just kind of mention a couple things. You know, raising 5 kids, surviving loss, celebrating weddings, and welcoming grandchildren, all while building your business. And there was a lot more to the post that you mentioned, but just a few of those.
Yeah.
And I guess, you know, it just made me think, you know, as being a father of 4.
Yeah.
How's your family journey been intertwined with your professional one? I mean, your
a-
life is your work, your work's your life, you know.
Yeah. You know, when you run a micro business, they're intertwined. I mean, at least it is for us. So it's like, if I don't produce, you know, my family doesn't eat. But you know, my wife helps me in the business, and most of our kids help me, you know, here and there. So it's there. You know, if between my clients, especially when they come back to me, they're always kind of like friends, and so there's always, I think it gets a little bit, you know, meshed together.
Yeah.
So it's been a beautiful run. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. All the extended family you gained through the years. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, we've been talking about the professional journey you've had, the moments that you've been able to capture, and the professional, you know, the business acumen and skills you've been able to learn. If there was a piece of advice, whether to a young professional or a prep student listening to this, what maybe would be a good piece of advice that you would leave off for some of the younger generation listening to this episode?
I got it for you. Okay, so when I was in college, I remember sitting around with buddies of mine in college, and we were all talking about where we're going to be in 5 years. And everybody had these kind of grand plans. And I said, I'm going to work for a major ad agency. I'm going to work on a major ad account. I'm going to live in a big city. I'm going to have my own car, and I'm going to have my own apartment. That was the goal, and I was going to do that, you know, by the time I was like, you know, 25 or 26. And so I ended up getting, just a couple years out of college, I ended up being hired by the largest ad agency in the country. I was working, it was a Madison Avenue agency, Young and Rubicam. I'm working in the Houston office. I'm working on the Gulf Oil account. I had my own car, I had my own apartment, and I was miserable. I absolutely hated it, and I thought, what in the world did I just do with my life? I mean, it's like, this is everything I wanted, and why am I so unhappy?
Yeah.
And I had to stop and retool and say, what am I all about? What am I? And that's when I realized, like, you are a creative through and through. And if you are not creative, if you are not doing something, whether painting, writing, drawing, photography, something in that field, you are a miserable person. And so it's like, I had to retool, and I had to say, okay, I'm going to kind of like start over on a whole new path. So my advice to young people is, if you come to a fork in the road, you might want to take it, because it might be your path. It might not be the path that you selected for yourself, but it might be the path that you should take. I look back and I realized, even before I got into photography, that I was circling photography. And I look back on everything I did in my youth, and it's like, man, it's like, it's so clear to me that I was a creative through and through.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that about myself. And it took me a while to figure it out. So if you read if you reach a hiccup, you have to allow a little bit of serendipity. You have to allow a little bit of grace, and you have to say, you know, maybe I should pivot. Maybe this is the right time.
Yeah.
Life has so many surprises, and you can't plan it all out beforehand. And if it doesn't go the way you plan, it doesn't mean it's a bad life. It just means there's grace and that God probably had a different plan for you.
Right. That's the thing I always try to chalk it up to when things aren't exactly as I was thinking they were going to go. Sometimes maybe it's God opening this door for me that I don't really see yet, but he might be leading me down some way. And then many years later, you can look back and say, I see what you were doing there.
Yeah.
I see why you led me in that way, or why I took that decision instead of the other one.
Yeah.
Because you were working these things out for your good and for my good, although I may not have seen that. I think that's where the faith element that we were talking about in the beginning of the episode comes in.
Yeah,
where
absolutely.
if we can operate in a method of just having faith and trust in our Lord, he's going to lead us down the right path.
I know, and it's challenging.
It is.
It's challenging.
It's very challenging, I think, for any of us, whether we are more on the creative type or more the regular people, as we've been talking about. It is challenging to operate in faith, but that's why it's a beautiful thing.
I'm reading a book on Saint Jean de Brebeuf. He was a Jesuit missionary to the Huron Indians in Quebec, and he went and lived with the tribes. And these folks were so... and I don't mean this in a mean way, but they were so primitive, they had not even invented the wheel, and their language was so guttural, they didn't even close their lips when they formed their letters. And it was so challenging to live with the heat and the cold and mosquitoes and the famine and the constant, the tribes were always fighting with each other. Anyways, I'm just thinking that is the challenge of all of our lives. It really is. It's like to set out onto a path that you don't know how it's going to work out. Yeah,
but also what an exciting life that we get to live.
We do.
We certainly do.
It's true.
I'm a glass half full kind of guy. If you and the listeners don't know by now,
I know you are, Jimmy. I know that about you.
Certainly. Well, and speaking of the glass half full comment, so 35 years.
Yeah.
What are you most proud of in terms of in the world of your business, your family, serving the people you've been able to have through your doors or out of your doors as you've gone out in the community and done the shoots. When you look back on 35 years of Lorei Portraits, what are you the most proud of?
I think it's just that you don't want a business that's just a transaction. Like I create goods or service and you pay me money. There's just an exchange. It's just a kind of a barter. I want to create something beautiful, and I want to give a lasting legacy of a person or of a family that would live, way beyond me, and that would be treasured. And I like to think I've done that.
Yeah,
I've created something beautiful that families will treasure, that did not exist if I didn't, act on it.
Yeah, and I would say through this episode, that's very evident by everything you've shared, the stories, and you can hear it in your voice, how passionate you are. To your point, not the transaction and look at my business success and how well I've done. I haven't heard you say that at all.
Yeah.
It's been about the people you've served and how proud you are of what you've created.
Yeah. It's been a good run. It really has.
And not to say you haven't been successful.
No, I haven't. I mean, it's like any creative that can pay their bills. It's like, man, you've been a success, brother.
Well, and through years of business, I'm sure too. The other part of it is technology changes. I mean, when you started 35 years ago, I'm holding my phone pointing to it right now. Yeah. People didn't have a camera on their phone to snap a picture.
Yeah.
As you've seen these new technology changes and things come, things go, things improve, I think it probably cements for you more and more, and I know I would just from the outside, how much value in a professional photographer there is. Yeah. Anybody can snap a photo, but to do all the things you've talked about in terms of the expression and capturing the moment, the lighting, all the things, there certainly is nothing to replace that.
Yeah, Jimmy, a great point. I never signed up for the whole technological wave, but it hit me like a tsunami. I remember when switching from film to digital, and I was like, I could only operate a computer to do word processing, and now I had to do everything on a computer. I just think of our little business takes like 5 computers to run our little business, and we have had to learn software and more software, and the whole industry is only about 20% the same as when I started it. So I'm constantly changing and constantly keeping up. And now we've got AI, which is a whole nother
oh my goodness,
it's a whole nother world. But no, it's good. You just have to be ready to. You need to be ready to run and to pivot.
Yeah, amen. Yeah. I think we're all seeing that in our lives, especially the world of AI that's been becoming more and more present in our everyday life for sure.
Yeah.
Oh man, well I got just a couple here questions for you as we wind down.
Yeah.
Kind of tying it back to prep for you as we come to a close. Prep often, between prep and Villa, we often talk about forming men and women of vision.
Yeah.
In spirit, mind, and body. When you kind of reflect back at your time at prep, how do you see that experience tied into the vision you've been able to carry through to your career and to your family?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think back on it, I'm so glad you asked that question, because when I was going through prep, I was like, well, is this something I had to do? This is where my parents said I'm going to school. And so it's just like, I just have to grin and bear it and get through it. But I realized along the way that I learned some discipline. I learned a little bit of self-control. I was challenged academically and mentally, and I ran into some very sharp people along the way. And I realized at this stage in my life, like, wow, that was very, very foundational. And it set, a moral compass at the same time, and a really strong moral framework. And then when I really kind of like pull back to the 30,000-foot view, I realized, well, gosh, this is a Catholic school. I mean, the Catholic Church created these magnificent cathedrals and monasteries. It created hospitals and universities. It created some of the greatest writers and artists and architects and scientists the world has ever known. And I just go, I was privileged enough to get a tiny toothpick of that, and I'm like, and I am so grateful.
Absolutely. Just to be a part of that fabric, that faith element of our lives, to be a part of that element of the 4 years we spend here at prep and our upbringing, the foundation. I just think of that word that you used in the very beginning, that foundation of what set us all up in terms of the successes, in terms of being able to face failure and defeat, all the things that we can then come back and look at what our roots are in. It's really a beautiful thing.
No, it really is true. And I think you don't really, I think I didn't, I think I appreciated prep from the get-go, but as the years have gone by, I just have appreciated it that much more. I mean, we can see all the foibles of our teacher, and we can see the foibles of our administrators, and you can see the petty things that might happen with your classmates, but when you pull back and really take the grand view of it, it's like, that's life. And you forgive the inconsistencies and the failures of others, and you learn from the lesson, and you just go, it's made me, a better person, or at least I like to think so.
Yeah, certainly. Well, it's one of the things I really enjoy most about my position here. You and Tim Doherty, and I'm blanking on the other classmate that came in.
Oh,
he came in. You guys came in about a month ago.
Oh yeah, Greg Rovnak.
Yes,
shout out to Greg Rovnak, and shout out to the entire class of '77.
Yes. We'd be remiss if we didn't give them a shout out. One of the things I enjoy most about my position is when alumni reach out for a tour of the school. And it's so much fun to walk around the halls with them, and you kind of get the After Dark Hours episodes of the podcast where I get to hear all the fun stories that we wouldn't necessarily put on the air. But nonetheless, walking through the halls, and you walk into the gymnasium and it smells just like 1975 when you were here. It looks the same. But then we walk around the hall, and then it looks completely different because of the renovations that have been done, and the pool being gone, and all the different things like that. Villa alumni who get welcomed into our school with open arms, and they get to see a lot of the relics we brought over from Villa to prep to still keep the legacy of Villa Maria Academy alive here at prep. it's certainly been some of the most fun aspects is connecting with alumni like yourself and others to hear their stories and hear what made that prep and Villa experience so special to them.
And I gotta say, when our daughters went to Villa, I never experienced Sports Day. And I went to Sports Day and saw what they did there, and I thought, this is the coolest thing I think I've ever seen. Like, this is really cool.
And we brought those things over to Prep today.
Yeah,
so we have Sports Day, we have Mary's Day, we have the ring ceremony. Villa had so many great annual traditions that they did that we've carried over here at Prep as well. So it's been very fun to see these last few years come together in such a great way. But what a great episode. It's been a lot of fun sitting here with you. Thank you for joining me.
I am so delighted to be here. I can't tell you, Jimmy. It's been marvelous. Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, my goodness. Of course. It's been great. You were somebody that I had on my list of people to invite onto the podcast. When I saw the LinkedIn post, it really, it inspired me to reach out to you, to get you on, because 35 years is quite the accomplishment, and congratulations again.
Thank you.
And to just hear about your journey and the things you went through to get to where you're at, it was fun to have this dialogue, to hear more about the backstory of many of those things. So, but thank you again for joining me.
You're welcome. It's been an honor. Thanks, Jimmy.